Hi everyone, I'm Michelle from ProWritingAid. I'm here today with Nick Stephenson. Nick is a USA Today bestselling author of thriller, science fiction, and nonfiction. His Leopold Blake series has over 1,000 five-star reviews and over 1 million copies downloaded to date with fans all over the globe. He also teaches other authors how to find their first 10,000 readers and make a living from their writing online at yourfirst10kreaders.com. So I'm going to hand the session over to Nick, and then I'll be back at the end.
Thank you very much. And I have to say, I think I've reached this point in my life with the weather coming in as it is today, that I've become slightly lawn obsessed. And you can you can tell me in the chat if this strikes a familiar note, but now I've been locked in the house for so long and the sun's finally come out. I've spent all day just fiddling with lawns because I've just reached that age. So any excuse to kind of come in and talk to real humans is always nice.
All right, take it away.
I am a Zoom. I've used Zoom a few times, but if I make any mistakes for you guys on the line and anything goes horribly wrong, I've got the chat box up on my right-hand side and I should be able to see. So if you can hear my voice, can you just drop a quick yes into the chat box for me? I'll just make sure we can see. And hi to Chris. Yes, I do remember the panel. Yes, wonderful. Excellent stuff. Okay, so I'm also now, this is the moment of truth, going to share my screen. So you should hopefully in just a second be able to see a slide. So fingers crossed. So if you can see a slide that says book marketing basics, can you also type yes in the chat box for me? Lovely stuff. Well, that's good news. We can actually proceed. Always good. Right, so I'm going to jump in. I'm going to make this full screen. I'm going to keep the chat box up. Note, not the Q&A box. There are two boxes. I can see the chat box, but I can't see the Q&A box. We're going to do Q&A at the end, but I might be asking for some audience input as we go. So we'll use the chat box for that, and we will jump straight in. So welcome to today's marketing session. This is all about book marketing basics. The key point being, where do we focus? Because there's so much going on in the world of book marketing, it's often difficult to try and figure out where to actually focus our efforts. So today I'm going to try and break it all down and we're going to focus on just a few things for you. And I can see a few questions coming in. Yes, I'm going to send the slides in when we're done. And I think the guys at ProWritingAid are going to make sure the recording is available for you as well. So don't worry too much about taking pages and pages of notes because we're going to make this available for you later as well. So welcome. Now, a quick introduction then. So as entrepreneurs, and tell me in the chat box if this sounds familiar, but we kind of feel like, to grow our business, we need to do something. So we try a little bit of everything and kind of hope something sticks. So that might be a little bit of Facebook here, Twitter here, YouTube. Maybe we're trying out TikTok. Maybe we've got a blog, a podcast, trying to do interviews, book signings, websites, email marketing, all sorts of things going on. And it all kind of gets a little bit lost in the mix and we're not sure where to focus. So we go crazy trying to figure it out and we get nowhere. Spaghetti at the wall kind of approach. If that sounds like you, please do tell me in the chat box. Because today what we're going to do is try and make sense of that a little bit and break it down into something a bit more manageable. And Barb says, don't want to do any of it, just want to write. And I'm with you on that. So what we're looking at today is kind of the foundation for building something like a machine almost that's going to do a lot of the sort of mundane marketing stuff that's going to help get you results without you having to do it 24/7. So that's what we're going to look at today. In particular, the three, what I call pillars of growing your book sales and audience. And within that, I'm going to show you some real results and some actual numbers from real people who have been doing this as well. We're going to look at some data as well. So lessons learned from over 20 million Amazon ad impressions. So I ran some Amazon ad tests, 20 million times my ads popped up and we looked at the data and we made tweaks and we saw improvements, and I'm going to show you what those were. So it doesn't matter if you aren't advertising, because these principles of what makes people want to click on something and buy it are the same. So I'm going to share with you that a little bit later on as well. And of course, a Q&A session at the end. So as the chat kind of scrolls endlessly in front of me, I might miss your question, but if you put it into the Q&A section, then hopefully we'll pick it up at the end. So just bear that in mind. So hello, my name is Nick Stephenson. I'm a USA Today bestselling author. I do fiction, non-fiction. I teach authors as well. I have some courses. I do coaching and website design as well. We have some website software for authors that we have out there on the market as well. So very author focused. I've helped lots of authors over the last sort of 8+ years. The key thing being to get them that exposure to help their books really shine. So I'm not telling them how to write. I'm telling them how to get it in front of the right people. So that's really what we're looking at today. So my entire life changed as a result of getting Today kind of implemented, and hopefully it will do for you as well. So trust me, I am nothing special. I started with 0 like everybody else did. And if I can do it, you can absolutely do it as well. And we're going to cover about an hour's worth of content today. If you want to get a lot more detail and a lot more information, I have just released today, in fact, 15 minutes before I came on here, because I'm not last minute or anything, a course called How to Go from $0 to $1,000 a month or more from your book sales, which you can get for free at yourfirst10kreaders.com. Links are going to be in the slides when I send them out as well. So you can get that if you want to get more detail. So that's a good thing to sign up for as well. And a quick word about self-publishing versus traditional publishing as well. So at the end of the day, we're all authors. You know, our main job is to write things that readers are going to enjoy. How we get there isn't necessarily as important as what it is we're writing. And a lot of the marketing principles are the same. There may be a few tweaks that we have to make to suit our circumstances. Everybody's different. You know, so you may have to make a few tweaks, refine something here and there. And that's what we can talk about a bit more in the Q&A session. So if there's something specific about your circumstances that you need clarifying, drop it in the Q&A and we will get to it later on. So I like to start off with a little kind of example that's kind of everyone's familiar with, and that's bookstores. So hopefully everyone on the line has been in a bookstore at some point in their lives. But let me know in the chat box. This is an easy question. Start you off easy. Which books do you think are selling the most copies? Is it the titles at the front of the store on the tables with the covers facing out and the discounts and the signs? Or is it the ones stuck at the back with the spine out? Let me know what you think. Tables, tables, tables. Hillier says one's in the front. Bridget says tables, front, front, front. Yes, it was a very easy question. And ironically, this photo, which was the only good photo I could find of this particular store, which is Waterstones in Birmingham. The only person in the store is at the back, but we'll gloss over that for a moment. But of course, the books in the front are the ones that are going to be most in your face when you come in. They have a discount, they have big signs, they're going to sell a ton more copies. But how do those books get there? So in almost all cases, it's because the publisher has paid for placement. So they've set aside a budget to have those books put in premium positions. So that's for bookstores, supermarkets, airports, all kinds of places. There are premium spots that are most often paid for. The result being more eyeballs on those books and more sales. So whether you're an indie author or a traditional published author, or both, maybe you do a bit of both, you kind of want your books to be at the front. Same online as well. And we're focusing mostly on online stuff today. But Amazon, if you just kind of upload your books and then sit back and do nothing, you're kind of relegating them to the back shelves, where there's 6 million other titles to get lost in. So what we're looking at today is trying to bring those books closer and closer to the front of the online store. Okay. And again, if you need extra help with anything today, we'll have a look through that in the Q&A session. So with that introduction done, it is time to jump in. So I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about the formula. And I say formula because it sounds very internet marketing-y, which I'm never a fan of. But it kind of applies because, as I said, alluded to earlier, marketing is complicated. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's very easy to get lost in the storm. So what I like to do is try and break it down and make it a little simpler. And before we jump in, I had to include this because I think we have Peter James coming in as part of the panel, I think tomorrow or later on in the week. But this was a great post I saw in one of the groups I'm a member of. Andy says, this is a bit spooky. I was minding my own business in the supermarket when my phone pinged to say Peter James had started following me on Twitter. Nice one, I thought. When I went to the till, look what was staring at me from the shelf. Yes, this is some kind of high level ninja stuff going on here. But I thought I just had to include this because you can ask Peter about this when you see him later on. But what is marketing? It's not following people around supermarkets necessarily. In general terms, it's that relationship between you, the author, and the reader, the person buying the book, and kind of the whole journey between, the first word you write to selling the book and your other books. Everything within that relationship is marketing. Okay, so it can apply from when you're thinking about, what kind of book am I going to write? How am I going to focus this? Am I going to write something that readers want, or am I going to go off and write something completely random? That's a decision to make that's based on marketing, all the way through to cover design, copywriting, email marketing, launches, social media, advertising, everything. So many things, like we said. So I'd like to break this down into 3 key pillars, which then becomes a strategy or what you do. So let's take a look. So to get more readers and more sales, we need to figure out, number 1, obviously, getting readers to your books in the first place. Kind of goes without saying, but that's what we will refer to as traffic. Then we need to turn that visit into a sale, conversions. And that's where it gets a bit more tricky, because we can get people to your book quite easily, but getting them to buy it is a different story. So for example, I could go on Facebook right now, set up an advert, dump a load of money into it, and have thousands of people check out any book I wanted, but they might not buy it. In fact, if I didn't spend any time thinking about what I was doing, nobody would buy it, and that's money gone. So traffic isn't necessarily the hard part. It's turning that traffic, those visits, into a sale is a little bit trickier, and we'll talk about that. And then getting to the point where you're reliably making sales and you want to scale it up. So taking those 5 sales a day and turning it into 50 or 500 sales a day or more. And that's where we start looking at how to automate things and how to do things at scale. So in other words, we're going to look at what to do. So supporting these 3 pillars, getting traffic, converting that traffic into sales, and then automating and scaling up. So there's a lot to cover, but as I said, slides are going to be available. If you want to get the free 7-day course, check out my website. We go through everything in a ton more detail, and you'll get the recording and slides as well. So just remember, as we go through, it's all about these 3 steps: traffic, convert, and then automate and scale. So we're going to start off with traffic then. So a quick thing about traffic, there is no shortage of traffic on the internet. Okay, it's just a case of how do we get that traffic? And generally speaking, we can either work for it, or we can pay for it, or we can do a little bit of both, which is what most people will do. Now, there's a ton of effective methods you can use. We're going to look at 3 today, because these 3 are things that pretty much anybody can do, and it's not going to cost a huge amount, or in most cases anything, to get started. So first of all, we're going to look at book SEO. So let me know in the chat box if anyone has ever heard of the term search engine optimization. Give me a yes or a no in the chat box and we'll have a look. Okay, lots and lots of yeses. That's good. Couple of no's. Lovely stuff. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover first. And the thing to bear in mind here is Amazon, the Kindle store, is not a bookstore. It's a search engine. Like YouTube is a search engine, right? And Google is a search engine. Amazon is also a search engine. It just so happens to be a search engine that sells stuff, in our case, books. So in the same way that we want to try and get our website to the top of Google, we want to get our book to the top of the Amazon searches as well. And it's the same principle of search engine optimization, optimizing our books so that they turn up in the right place at the right time. So this means, in our case, nailing down keywords and categories. And I'll talk about those in a bit more detail now. So categories is something that most people, I assume, are going to be familiar with, but this is basically the genre of your book, or the subgenre. Okay, now what we really don't want to do is choose a super broad genre. So narrowing down is the key here. So for example, if in the example I've given you here, we don't want to list this particular book in romance as our main genre, because the competition is so huge. It's going to be much easier to get lost. It's going to be easier to get to the top if we're in one of the subgenres. So in this example, it's romance, subgenre, paranormal romance, subgenre, werewolves and shifters. And then there's even more things you can do, like select the different kind of heroes as well. So that really helps you narrow down your book so that you show up in the right place at the right time. And then when you become king or queen of your subgenre, you can start getting broader. And the other thing as well, as aside from categories, is keywords. And this is where it gets a bit more complicated, because when somebody is searching for something in Amazon on the Kindle store, chances are a decent number of them are going to be typing it into the search bar. So you want to make sure that those keywords they're typing in can apply to your book where they're relevant. So if you want to figure out which keywords to use for your book, again, if you're writing a romance book, you don't want your keyword to be romance because it's so broad. You want to try and narrow it down. So what you want to know is, what are people searching for that's within your genre, that's relevant to your books? So one easy way of doing this is to go onto Kindle and start typing stuff into the search bar. So for example, if you write nonfiction, in this example here, you could write nonfiction A and see what pops up. And for you guys, everyone's writing crime or thrillers, you'll start off writing thrillers A, thrillers B, thrillers C, and start seeing what pops up. Then you can click through to those search terms, see how many other books show up, because it'll give you a little summary of how many other books are there. And if it's going to be 100,000 other books you're competing with, probably not a good idea. You want to try and narrow that down as much as you can. And then you can take those keywords and you can put them into your publishing dashboard in Kindle KDP. And if you can get them into your title and your description in a natural way as well, even better. But one way Amazon decides whether to show a book for a particular search term or category is by those keywords. So making sure you have them in there is essential. So kind of number one takeaway, don't go too broad if you can. And there is some software you can use. I don't know if you guys have heard of Publisher Rocket by the great Dave Chesson. Publisher Rocket is an excellent tool for this as well. So you can just click a button and it will tell you some great keywords that you can use. So that's a bit of a time saver. So when we figured out how to index our books in the right way, we want to start thinking about some active things we can do to generate some traffic. Now, remember, this is the first stage. We just want to get traffic. We want to get clicks. And one great way of doing this is using free books. And the reason for this is people are out there looking for free books, and free books are sort of 50 times plus more likely to be downloaded versus even super cheap books. And remember, we're not getting any royalties for a free download, but we are getting traffic. And if we're doing something smart with that traffic, we can make that back, which is key. And I'll show you some examples in just a second. But having a book up there for free, whether it's a short story that you've written that complements your series and you put it up there for free, or whether it's one of your novels, perhaps you're in Kindle Unlimited and you're allowed to put it up for free for a few days. Or maybe, like a lot of people, you've taken the first book in your series and you've made that book completely free so that people will download it and move through the others. This is a great way of getting free traffic 24/7. It doesn't cost you anything. You're not paying for advertising, but you are getting those clicks. And if you're doing something smart with those clicks, it can make a big difference. The value is in the traffic. So example here, from Lindsay here is a sci-fi writer. She has loads and loads of books up, loads of different series. But one of the key things that they have in common is the first book in each series is free. And little tip here, if you want to kind of see how people are moving through a series, how many people are moving from book 1 to book 2 and onwards, count the reviews. So this is a ballpark here to give you an idea. So 800 reviews of book 1 and then sort of 350 reviews of book 2. A good sort of just under half people are moving from book 1 to book 2. And then book 2 onwards, it's a very, very good kind of conversion rate or read through rate. So if you have a strong series and people love your work and they're moving through that series, then free books can be incredibly powerful. But again, the efficiency and how well this works is going to depend on the next pillar, conversions, because all the clicks in the world aren't going to help if nobody buys it or downloads it or moves on to the next book. And this is what I see from people who try out a free book promotion and nothing much happens. And then we go back and we look at it and we think, well, people aren't downloading this book because the cover's not quite right, or the description's not quite right, or they're not moving on to book 2 because you haven't linked to it, or, you know, because of a myriad of other reasons, which I'll cover in just a moment. So just bear in mind for now that free books is a great way of getting traffic in the beginning and starting to scale up. So it's very, very powerful. So the key, though, as I've said, is optimizing for read through. So making sure that when someone's finished book 1, that they want to move on to book 2 and book 3 and onwards. So having the right links in there is something that people skip over all the time. A lot of authors will put their entire catalog in the back of the book, or they'll have some random stuff at the end. What you really want to do is, as soon as someone's finished the book, you give them a link to the next one. It makes a massive difference. Another thing we can use is reader magnets, which I'll cover in a couple of slides' time, which is an incentive to get people onto your email list. We want people on our email list because we want to be able to tell them about our other books. We want to be able to tell them about our launches, already promotions that we're running, so that we can get that bulk of sales through during launch or promotion week. And then, you know, that free download then becomes an asset that's earning you clicks to your paid books and email subscribers 24/7. So if you're in KDP Select, and for those of you who don't know, that means if you're exclusive to Amazon, in most cases, you can use free promotions instead. So you have a little checkbox, you can schedule a free promotion, and that can work well as well. Or write something new. A short story could work, that you tie into the series to get more people clicking through to it. So if you want to try this out, how to get a book permanently free on Amazon, for some reason, they have no pricing option for free. The lowest you can price it is 99 cents. So what you need to do is get them to price match it. And the way we do this is we take the book we want to be free all the time. We upload it to iBooks and Nook and Kobo, which are Amazon's biggest competitors. And we can do this quite easily with a distributor like Draft2Digital or Smashwords. We set the price to 0 on those stores, and then we email KDP support and ask them to price match it. And in fact, they have so many requests for this, they even have an email template you can use. If you sign into your KDP account, click on help, there is even an email template you can send in to request a price match. And then within a few days, your book should be price matched and you should be good to go. So before I move on to the next section, does anyone have any questions about what we've covered so far? Let me know in the chat rather than the Q&A so I can see it. But let me see if anyone has any questions that they want clarifying. Emily says, if we're in KDP Select, we can't put a book on perma-free. No, you can't, because this requires you to have the book elsewhere. So you would have to be wide for that particular book. So yeah, if you're exclusive to Amazon, then you can't have a book free all the time. Ian says, if you can't offer free books because you're publishing your first book, how do you get traffic for conversions? We'll cover that next, actually. That's a good one. Carrie says, can you offer a chapter for free? You can, but people tend to like things that are complete. So even if it's short, so I'll tell you, a 2,000 word chapter will perform many times worse than a 2,000 word short story. I'll give you that example. People like complete things. Suzanne says, does this work for all genres? Yes, it does. So people, you know, they're looking for something that you've written. If they're interested in what you've written to the point where they've downloaded your book, then yes, they're going to then click through to your other stuff as well. So it's not genre specific. But yeah, so what do we do to get traffic if we don't have a book we can put perma-free? What can we do to drive traffic if we want to grow an email list and we don't have anyone on our email list? And this is where I like to introduce the idea of joint promotions. And there's a few different types that you can run here, one of which is contests and sweepstakes, which is great for people just getting started. But even if you have a really small email list or a small social media following, this is something that you can do that's going to double, triple, quadruple your reach straight away, because basically what you're doing is finding people with a similar audience size to you, and you're teaming up and you're promoting each other's work at specific times. So you're kind of pooling resources during a promotional period. So this might be during a launch. So let's say you have 500 people on an email list. If you can find 3 other people with 500 people on an email list, you now have access to 2,000 readers during launch. That's how it works, and it's a reciprocal thing. And if you don't have an email list, you can team up with other people to run a contest, which I will talk to you about in just a second, and split the cost. And you can find authors to join up with in author forums, in places like BookFunnel, who have a joint promotion section of their website, a site called Prolific Works, anywhere that encourages authors to team up, you can find people like this. So one thing that you can do, and I'll give you an example of what I did, was I did a box set or an anthology. In my case, it was an anthology here. I teamed up with 7 other authors and we did an anthology of, I sent in a novella and other people sent in varying lengths between sort of super short story and novella length. But the topic was basically just crime thrillers. And we called it 8 the Hard Way. And we basically just pulled all our books together, packaged them up, gave it a nice cover, and then put it out there, set it to free, and then put links to all of our websites at the end of our story. And it's kind of bubbling along there in the background, bringing people in sort of 24/7, being quite quiet. And then all of a sudden, Amazon picks it up in India, of all places, and we get nearly 200,000 downloads in the space of about 10 days, which was just crazy. But it happened because it was there, it was ticking along. It was bringing people to our websites, to our email list, to our books 24/7. And then it got this huge boost. So that was a fun story. I also did a box set with some other people as well. We all teamed up and submitted a full novel this time. And we pulled resources and emailed out at the same time and sent social media messages all at the same time. And because we had this combined resource of marketing muscle, we were able to hit the USA Today bestseller list, which was fantastic. So, teaming up with people is extremely effective. And obviously, as your email list grows and as your audience grows, you will then be able to team up with more people who have bigger audiences, which then kind of escalates it even more. But for you guys who don't have an email list, you're just getting started, you want to get some people onto an email list, one quite easy way of doing this is with contests or giveaways or sweepstakes, they're called sometimes as well. The basic principle of this is you offer a prize, people sign up, and you pick a winner at random. Now, you probably see these all over the place. And what we want to do is approach this in a slightly different way, because we want to make sure that we're only keeping the good people, the nice people that we want on our email list to stay with us. So we don't want everybody. So what we do is we get a little bit more targeted. So we choose a prize that's going to be particularly relevant to the kind of people that we want to attract and keep. So one example of this is I offered a Kindle Voyage and some free ebooks, and people would enter their email address and then I would send them a free short story. Another example here, I teamed up with 40 other authors, which is quite a lot, and we all offered a paperback as the prize. So each one of us said, I'll offer my paperback this book. So we've got 40 paperbacks. Whoever wins the grand prize gets 40 paperbacks. And I set it up in such a way that everyone who entered got a free ebook. Right? So there was an incentive to enter even if you didn't win. All right, so the total cost here was about $10 per author, an author's copy, however much that costs in your region, or off the shelf. If you have a few stacked behind you, you could offer one of those. So the total cost was roughly about 5 cents for every new subscriber, because we've got about 8,000 people join up for this contest. They all wanted to win the prize, you see. And someone who's interested in winning 40 crime thrillers is most likely going to be a crime thriller fan. So these are the people we want on our email list. So, offering a prize that's relevant to the kind of people you want to attract and giving them an incentive to join can get you a lot of people joining up very quickly. And you don't have to worry too much about not having an email list already, because there's a ton of sites out there called giveaway directories. Now, when you are offering a prize, you can list this on a giveaway directory, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, of giveaway directories out there. You can just Google the term giveaway directory and you'll see tons. A particularly good one is giveawayfrenzy.com and giveawaypromote.com. You can have your contest up on their website and you'll get loads of people entering. And then again, you're offering a prize that your target reader is interested in. You're going to be getting interested people through. Now, as I said, the key point for me was I was also offering people a free ebook. So when they joined the giveaway, I'd send them an email. The email would say, I'm going to announce the winner of the grand prize in 2 weeks. In the meantime, if you'd like to download a copy of my free book or my free short story or sample chapter, just click this link to go get it. And then I would pay attention. All those people who clicked that link to go and download that free book, those are the people that I kept at the end of the contest. Everybody else I deleted from my email list because they hadn't put their hands up and they hadn't said, yes, I'm interested in reading books like yours, books that you've written. If they didn't say that by clicking that link, I deleted them because I don't want to have hundreds or thousands of spam emails on my list. It's very bad news. So main thing, you can team up with others to cross-promote this. So if you don't want to get 40 paperbacks or pay for a Kindle Paperwhite yourself, you can team up with other people to split that cost and then promote your giveaway on the directories. And sometimes they have like featured deals where you can pay $10, $20 to have them do it for you, and they'll distribute it to all the different giveaway sites, which is quite cool. Lots of people will join, and then you just got to set up an email that goes out saying, thanks for joining. If you're interested in reading this free book, click the link and go get it. And then everyone who clicks that link between the time they enter and the time the giveaway closes, those are the people that you want to keep. So we talked about 3 traffic options. And as I kind of said earlier, there's tons more that we don't have time to cover. But these are things that anybody can do, regardless of your experience. You can have a look at your book and set the right categories and keywords. You can set a book to free. You can write a short story for the purpose of having something free. You can run a contest. It doesn't have to be 40 paperbacks. It could be something else. It could be something like a Harry Potter boxed set if you were writing fantasy, or it could be a collection of Peter James novels, for example, if you wanted to. The key thing is offering a prize that people are interested in and collecting those email addresses. And there's software that you can do that will help you do that. One is King Sumo giveaways, and another one is UpViral, and they'll automate this whole thing. But regardless of what stage you're at, you don't want to do all of this at the same time. Okay, we don't like confusion. We like doing one thing at once, measuring and testing, and then moving on. Okay, so that's the main thing. So there's going to be maybe 15 ways for you to get traffic. Do one at a time. Try it out, test it, then move on to the next one. So remember, you'll get the slides for this. I've got a free course for you that's going to go through everything in more detail. Don't try and do it all at once. Just remember, traffic, conversions, and scaling up. Okay, so we've looked at traffic. What's the next piece of the puzzle? So as I said, it's relatively straightforward to get people to see your book. It's getting them to then buy it that's the tricky part. So that's what we're going to look at now. So conversions. And this is something that a lot of people skip. Okay, so we're getting traffic to our books, and we want to make sure that we are turning that traffic into a sale or getting an email subscriber so that we can send them emails and sell to them multiple times later on. And once you have this set up, it's pretty much done. It's like, you're building this mechanism that's going to work in the background so that you can focus on other things. As someone alluded to earlier, we all kind of want to be able to just write and have this stuff take care of itself, which it largely can if you build those foundations first. So after traffic, we want to build something that's going to help us convert that traffic into sales. And we're going to start off with what I call book page optimization, which sounds incredibly scientific. But this is basically just putting together a book page that means people will buy it. And I'm basing this, what I'm going to show you now, off of 20 million Amazon ad impressions. So my book popping up on Amazon 20 million times, initially not doing very well, and then getting better and better and better and better as we tweak the things we're going to look at now. Okay, because it's no good driving a ton of traffic via ads or giveaways or free books if that traffic doesn't do what we want it to. All right, so why do people click then buy? Let's find out. So by looking at what's actually working instead of guessing, we were able to double our click-through rate. And click-through rate is the number of people who see something and then click it. So if 100 people see my book and 20 people click it, that's a 20% click-through rate. We more than doubled our conversion rate. That's the number of people who clicked and then bought. So those 20 people, if 10 of them bought, that's a 50% conversion rate. Those would be great numbers. But you're not going to get anything like that. It was just easy maths. So meaning if I can double those two things, that means a person seeing the book for the first time is 4 times more likely to buy. Obviously, massive difference. So that's kind of what it looked like when we ran this test. And once we understand what makes ads work, we can apply it to everything. Okay. So we focus on improving 2 things, the main 2, cover and product description. All right. So we tested a few different cover variants. So cover number 1 had been up for several years. And, you know, by this point, the book had had over 1 million downloads and it had over 1,000 reviews. And we started running ads to it. And we saw that the click-through rate, number of people actually clicking, was lower than we wanted it to be. And those people who did click, they weren't buying as much as we thought they would based on what we'd seen before. So we thought, right, let's start with the cover. So we changed it and we ran cover 2 and there was a big improvement. Still not quite right though. So then we moved on to cover 3 and that absolutely smashed it. And you wouldn't have thought the difference between cover 2 and 3 was all that big, but it did make a difference. And this was surprising. So we ran 500,000 impressions. So the covers flashed up 500,000 times each. And we saw moving from cover 1 to cover 2, the clicks improved by 50%. So 50% more clicks. Cover 1 to cover 2, we also doubled our conversion rate. Number of people buying, fantastic. But then moving from cover 2 to cover 3, nearly half as many people again, here, 2 to 3, half as many people again were clicking. Not as big an improvement in the actual conversion rate, but because we were getting more clicks, our ad was getting served more often and cheaper, which was amazing news. And as Sally says in the chat box, red sells roughly 8 to 10 times more. And this is for crime and thrillers, by the way. So it doesn't apply to all genres, but the key is having a cover that's genre appropriate. And this is really important because I'm one of these people, but when I have a book, I want the cover to be an artistic expression of the work and the soul that went into writing it. I don't want a generic cookie cutter cover. Unfortunately, generic cookie cutter covers, try saying that 3 times fast, sell better. So cover 3, in my view, not as good as cover 1. I think cover 1 is a better artistic piece, more interesting and more unique. Cover 3 sells 4 times as many. So I'm going to go with 4 times as many sales every day of the week. Karin says, great idea, but who can afford 2 to 3 versions of their cover? Pick a savvy designer in the first place. I see your point. Unfortunately, cover designers don't know this. Cover designers in general, and you may know a cover designer who doesn't do this, but the vast majority of them will design your cover to spec. So they will design a cover based on examples you send them, generally speaking. So for example, cover number 3 was one I made myself. Cover 1 and 2 were done by designers. So I'll just put it like that. But it was my job to send them the spec that they needed to go to. So I was sending designer number 1 all sorts of action adventure-y, sort of Indiana Jonesy type things that I liked, and he created what I asked for, but what I asked for was wrong. So don't do what I did and have 3 different covers. Stick with what works. And the way to figure this out is to do some research, of course. Go look at the books in your genre. Pay attention to what font are they using? What color is the font? What's the layout? What are the color schemes? Is there a person on the cover? What's that person doing? In the sort of thriller crime space, it is almost always a figure in shadow walking or running away from the camera, not running towards, running away. You can't see their face, big, bold type, red with gold and blue accent, almost every time. So crime thriller, the cover designers, that's it. And yes, Lindsay says you can read it instantly. You don't have to stop and figure it out. Absolutely. You see a cover like that, you know exactly what it is. You click it. That's why it works. So bear that in mind. And if you want to join the free course I mentioned earlier, I'll give you a link at the end. I have a whole 30-minute video on this about how to go into Amazon, research the covers, pick out the design elements you need, and put together a brief for your designer so that you don't do what I did and have 3 variants. You just get it right first time. So I'll link to that at the end. The other thing we tested was the description. Now, where the cover is what gets you clicks, the description is what gets you sales. If that makes sense. So someone's clicked through, looks interesting, I want to check it out, but then the description sucks, they don't buy it. So you can't see the description until you click it. So obviously the description won't help you with clicks, but it will help you get more sales. So here we go. So I want to give you an example of a bad description. All right. So this is from The Martian, which hopefully everyone is vaguely familiar with. And this isn't the one they used, by the way, just in case you're wondering. An astronaut is stranded on Mars with no way home. He must use his skills as a botanist to survive against the brutal Martian wilderness until NASA figure out how to bring him back to Earth. And they've only got 31 days. Okay, so it's not awful. It doesn't make me want to go to bed, but, you know, it's a bit boring. It has all the key points. You know, it summarizes what's the key premise, what's the conflict, what are the stakes, who's the main character. It's okay. Most authors do this. You know, we tell stories. We're not copywriters, but we need to learn how to tweak it a little bit to make it more compelling. So I'm going to show you what they actually used as the description is this. I'm stranded on Mars. I have no way to communicate with Earth. I'm in a habitat designed to last 31 days. If the oxygenator breaks down, I'll suffocate. If the water reclaimer breaks down, I'll die of thirst. If the hab breaches, I'll just kind of explode. If none of these things happen, I'll eventually run out of food and starve to death. So yeah, I'm screwed. So here, it's the same kind of thing. So we know who the main character is, where he is, what the main conflict is, and what the stakes are. But it's just done in a much more interesting way, much more interesting and compelling. You know, each sentence is on its own line, is driving you down the page, reading line after line until you get to the bottom. And then by that point, you want to read the book. So having that description really nailed down can make a big difference as well. Okay, so there are other factors. So reviews is one. It's not as big a deal as you might think. So obviously, if you have like 1-star reviews, like 300 1-star reviews, it might be an issue. But the difference between sort of a 4 and a 4.2 is not so great. And the difference between having 100 reviews and 1,000 reviews, we found in the data, not so massive. So, you know, if you only have 5 reviews, but they're good ones, that's the main thing. Your cover and your description are going to have much more of an influence. Obviously, we want more reviews, but they're not going to kill anything. Look inside. So on Amazon and the other bookstores, people can click the cover and it pops up with a preview. This is an opportunity for you to mess things up. So just make sure that you've tested it, because sometimes if your formatting isn't perfect, there'll be some crazy errors in there. I've seen italics where there shouldn't be italics, random sized fonts, and all sorts of horrible things going on. So just make sure that that looks good, and then you won't mess it up at the last hurdle. But those are the main things. Cover and product description will by far have the most impact on your results. So if your cover is beautiful, but completely genre inappropriate, it will perform worse than a cookie cutter cover, like I showed you earlier. That's just the way of it, I'm afraid. So with that in mind, you know, we've looked at traffic, you know, getting traffic from free books, from giveaways. We've looked at search engine optimization options as well. There's a ton of other things we didn't have time to cover, but we're working hard to get clicks, or maybe we're paying for clicks. And we spent some time looking at our cover to make sure we're getting as many clicks as possible, and our description to make sure we're turning as many of those clicks into sales as possible. What comes next? So maybe at this point, you know, we're sailing along, maybe we're getting, you know, 5 sales a day or 1 sale a day, but we want to scale that up to 10, 50, 100 sales a day. How do we get to that point? Okay, and we'll talk about that as well. And one key way of really growing is by having an email list. Okay, so optimizing your book page, like we talked about, means you can improve your conversion rate. So how much you're going to earn for each click. All right. Email lists then come in as an asset that you can use to grow long term. So you can turn traffic into sales by sending them to Amazon, but you can also turn traffic into subscribers by sending them to your email list. All right. And this is where reader magnets comes in. And this is a mechanism you can use, something again that you can build in advance and then sort of leave to do its thing, that's going to get people on your email list, so that you have that built-in audience, so that when you launch a new book, you have people ready to buy it. When you want to get reviews, you can ask people for reviews, or you're running a promotion. You know, lots of good things come from an email list, and it's something that you own and you control and becomes a business asset for you. And reader magnets is something that, you know, is going to turn casual browsers into committed fans. Okay, it's something of value that you give in exchange for this reader joining your email list. Now, usually this free gift, this incentive, is another book in the same series or in the same genre, ideally. It doesn't have to be, though. I mean, it could be a short story, an epilogue. This is a good one. Someone wrote a book and decided to cut out the last couple of chapters and end it earlier. Then they offered those cut out chapters as a reader magnet. And Jim says, I thought I read it as refrigerator magnets. Yes, you could offer a refrigerator magnet as an incentive. There you go, getting meta. But there could be anything. And, you know, it could be a free book. It could be a short story. It could be an anthology. Could even be somebody else's free book. If you've teamed up with people and you've said, can I offer your book for free to my subscribers, and you do the same, reciprocal, that can work really well as well. You know, but it's literally anything that your readers are going to be interested in and willing to sign up to your email address, your email list to get. Okay, so to get the gift, they sign up to your newsletter, and then you can get way more people on there versus just having, you know, a lot of people, they just have a website and it just says, you know, on the side, tucked down at the bottom, saying, oh, if you want something, maybe join my newsletter if you like, but you don't have to. People don't tend to go for that. But if you say, look, this great book, this great short story, I've written it just for you. If you want to get it, join my readers group. I'll pop you on the list. I'll send it straight to your email inbox, and then you can read it for free. Click here. People go for that and they'll join your list. And this is how it works in a nutshell. So we have a big graphic and headline, all right, in the front and the back of your books. Remember, you know, this book might be permanently free, in which case it's getting quite a lot of downloads. But we have this big notice at the front and the back that says, would you like to get another book in this series, or another short story, or deleted scenes? If you'd like to join my readers group, click this link. So they click the link and they go to a page on my website, or they might see a post on Facebook with a link, and they click it and they land on my website. And this is a special page on my website dedicated just for collecting emails. And it might have a sign-up form, or it might, like in this case, have a button that people can click, and a form will appear. But I have a headline that says, you know, greed could be murder. And then I say, you know, get your free book. When you click the button, they click the button, they enter their email address, and then behind the scenes, they're added to my email database. And an email goes out automatically with a link to this page where they can download it. And I've uploaded the book file into the site and provided a download link for them. Okay, so readers see the free book, you know, they're downloading it, it's permanently free, or you're running a free promotion, getting lots of clicks, lots of downloads. They see this offer for another book, or a short story, or an epilogue, or even a chapter reading, you know, if you like reading your own stuff into a microphone, or some other incentive. They will then click through, sign up, they're added to your database, and then an automatic email is sent to them with a link where they can download their gift. And this is what you need to have in place. So you need a website. It doesn't have to be fancy. If you have email marketing software like MailChimp or MailerLite or whatever email system you use that's a professional marketing email system, a lot of them are free. They have built-in web pages just for this. They often call them landing pages. And it allows you to put an image of your book up there and a form that allows people to sign up. All right, so it doesn't have to be a fancy website. A lot of email marketing software has it included. You know, having this is really important. Don't just send people to your homepage, because then people will start looking at your blog and your about page, and they'll go somewhere else. You want to send them somewhere super targeted, like this. Okay, so after they've signed up on that page, you can send them to a thank you page that just says, thanks for signing up. Go and check your inbox. And then behind the scenes, your email marketing software has seen that person subscribe, and they send out an email with a link to download the book. Okay, and that might look like this. So on the left-hand side is a piece of software called MailerLite, and they have a free plan for authors or for anybody. You can sign up and I think you get 1,000 subscribers for free, and you can set up these funky little flow charts that show exactly what will happen. So when a new subscriber joins, it can send out an email either after a day or straight away, or whatever delay you want to set. Or MailChimp on the right-hand side, they also have a free plan as well. When somebody joins your list, you can set this up to trigger an email to go out with the link to download the book. Downloading the book then. So this is where it gets slightly tricky, because I don't know if anyone's tried to open an ebook file on a computer and you just sort of, or a phone, you just sort of tap it and click it and it doesn't know what to do. That's a thing. So Amazon especially created a file type called .mobi. And they play with different formats all the time, but basically you have to sort of go through their infrastructure to get it to open. So you have to give people instructions on how to do it, because they can't just get at their phone and tap it most of the time. They have to do something. So you need to put instructions on there. So you can write the instructions out, or you can have a little drop down box that asks people what kind of device they have. Or you can use a piece of software called Book Funnel that will do this for you as well. And that's super, super cheap. So either do it yourself, or very cheap software. Book Funnel is very, very good as well. So with these people joining your email list in exchange for this free book, you can then set up more emails to go out in the future. You can broadcast them on the day you want to send them manually, or you can write them in advance and send them out after a particular delay. So let's say, you have 5 books in your series. Somebody has downloaded the first one for free. They've seen your offer to get a free short story. They've downloaded that by joining your email list, and now you've got them on your email list. Maybe in 2 weeks' time, you send them an email about book 2, and then book 3. And then maybe you ask them for a review. And then maybe you ask them to join your review team. There's lots of things you can do. But the key thing is, if you're growing an email list, this means you're able to boost your sales during launch week, or if you're running a promotion, or if you're trying to get reviews. So very, very powerful. So quick summary: optimize your covers and descriptions for maximum results. So if you're working with a cover designer, well, make sure you go and research exactly what it needs to look like. Look at the color schemes, the fonts, the characters on the book cover. Are they facing you, facing away? Are they doing a sort of pose? Are they, that was a good one. Are they running at you, or is it machines on the cover? Is it an airplane? Have a look. You want to use reader magnets as well. If you want to grow your email list, offer something for free in exchange for an email address. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's something people are interested in. All right. Sign up with one of the email marketing providers if you haven't already. MailChimp and MailerLite are both free to get started, and they're quite easy to set up. Trigger an email to go out after someone has joined to deliver that free gift, and then they're on your email list. That is your fan. That's your fan club now. You can send them as many or as few emails as you like, but I would recommend maybe once every 2 weeks is a good place to start. Or if you don't have a launch coming up, once a month. And then during launch week, you can say, my book's free, give them some sample chapters, some snippets, get them excited. And then during launch week, you're going to get those results. And that's what we're going to cover now as well. Before we get to the end, I want to talk about what to do with your email list, because growing one is one thing, but knowing what to do with it is another. So as I said, having that built-in audience of fans is incredibly important if you use it right. Okay, so we're going to be looking at, maybe we send a few automated emails, and maybe we broadcast a few ourselves. We sit down in the afternoon and we write an email, and then we click send, and that's a broadcast. Okay, now when we're selling via email or via anything, really, there's a few built-in objections that most people have. They don't necessarily think consciously about these, but they exist. Okay, the biggest problems are indifference is one, where the reader just doesn't seem to care. It's like, well, you've got a book out, who cares? The other one is procrastination, which is much worse, much more prevalent, which is a case of, I love the idea of this book and I'm going to get it, but I'm busy, so I'll do it tomorrow. No rush, it's fine, I'll get it whenever. And then they forget. So for every 100 people who are on your email list, you're going to have a bit of a split. So maybe 10% of them are super fans and they'll just buy from you because they love you. 10% will never buy anything and they're confused as to what they're doing and why they're there. And they probably fall down a lot during the day. The other sort of 80% are what we call sideliners. So they're on the fence. They're interested, they're kind of interested, but they need a little bit of a nudge to go by. All right. And this sort of indifference, this procrastination is what's causing people to be on the fence. So if we can build buzz ahead of a launch and offer some kind of incentive during launch week with a deadline, for example. So I've just launched a new book. If you buy it before Friday, I'll throw in this XYZ bonus. All right. And if you don't have a bonus, again, you can team up with other authors, maybe bundle a few of your short stories together and offer that as a bonus, as long as it's something extra that people can get if they buy within a certain time frame. So that works really well. So a quick launch campaign then. So maybe 4 weeks out before the launch, you want to email your list, email a few people, invite them to join your launch team or your review team. Send them an ARC, an advanced review copy, and remind them to review on launch day. For those people who aren't on your launch team, maybe about a week before the book goes live, I'm going to start sending out some building buzz emails. So maybe, introduce the characters, show them the cover, maybe even give them a preview chapter. If you've had some of your review team send in some positive feedback, share that with them. Maybe send out two or three emails before the book launches, just building up that buzz. And then during launch week, we want to offer a little bonus. So we're saying, don't procrastinate. If you buy it before the end of the week, I'll throw in this compilation of crime short stories that I've teamed up with these great authors with, and we'll give it to you for free if you buy during launch week. And that gives people a little push. So they wanted to buy it. You're not trying to convince them to buy something they don't want. You're just giving them that little push to do it now instead of waiting until later. Because if they wait till later, chances are they will forget. And when you get this right, what we want to get is people emailing and messaging you and saying, where's the book? I want to give you money. Where is it? That's what you want. That's what we want to do. All right. So the bonus, again, it just means that you're not letting them suffer from procrastination. All right, another way you can do this, if you don't have a bonus, you can't team up with someone, you can't do a short story or a little excerpt or something, you can do a price reduction. And this is why when someone runs a deal with a company like BookBub, for example, and let me know in the chat as well, have you heard of BookBub? Tell me yes or no in the chat. Yes, lots of yeses. Good. So BookBub, discount books online. They do a lot of 99-cent deals. You can pay them hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get your book featured. And the thing with them is BookBub say, we will only feature your book if it's reduced, right? So if you're running a 99-cent deal with us, that book must have been sort of at least $2.99 usually. So it's that limited time price reduction that gets over procrastination, because people know if they want it, they've got to get it now. So they want it anyway, but this stops them delaying. So that's why we do that. Some people do both. I've done both. I've said, you can get the book for 99 cents or $2 or, 50% off for the first 5 days. And I'll also give you a bonus, but you must buy it before Friday or Sunday. And it works amazingly well. Here's a graph. On the left, we didn't do this. On the right, we did. And we split our email list in half. The first half just got an email that said, my book's here. And the second half got emails leading up to it, revealing the cover, giving them a little preview chapter, giving them a bonus. More than twice the difference. Makes a big, big difference. Emmanuel here as well, more than doubled in comparison without the bonus, because it's that little nudge, because people procrastinate, they do. And then automate. So scaling up, getting there, doing email, we don't want to have to do it manually if we can help it. Writing an email, unless you're used to it, it's quite stressful. Sitting down, thinking, I'm going to write this email. It's going to go out to thousands of people. I can't send it to an editor or a proofreader. Oh dear. So it can be stressful. I get it. But when we get over that and we start exploring how our audience reacts, we can take our best emails and then we can use them later. So let's say we've done a really good launch of our latest book, but we want to take those emails and tweak them a little bit and put them in a sequence so that when somebody joins the email list after a few weeks, it tells them about that book. Now, it's no longer on offer or with the bonus, but it's telling them about it and it's getting them excited. And that's how we can reuse all this hard work and automate it going forward. So, imagine instead of focusing on trying to get a new book out every month, you're instead focusing on showing new readers your existing books. Much less stressful. Okay, it all comes down to those 3 steps then. So traffic, where do we get it from? Clicks, visits, eyeballs. Convert those clicks into something helpful, and then automate and scale it up. And having, deliberate, measurable activities that we can sort of look at and know, so we know it's working under each step. It's going to be incredibly helpful. And building this machine and setting it up in the right way means that you're going to be generating these things sort of 24/7 while you can do other stuff. And it takes time to build it, but once it is built, you're getting to the point where your marketing job is just getting clicks. You don't think, do I do TikTok today? Do I do a podcast? Do I do YouTube? Do I do some sort of social media thing or a blog or whatever? All you got to think is, I need 10 clicks today. So much easier. That's what we want to get to. And when you get it right, it makes a huge difference. So Russell Blake here, we used his launch of a new series to test out a launch sequence campaign. So sending buzz ahead of time, using reader magnets to grow a bigger audience ahead of time made a massive difference. So he launched the book at $7.99 in a new genre, in a new series, and it had one of his best performing launches ever. Justin Johnson as well, children's author. He particularly looked at book SEO, so categories and keywords, also building an email list and optimizing for read through, and his sales grew massively from sort of 3 or 4 books a week, then to 10 books a day, then to 100 books a day. Joanna Penn as well, and she's in the sort of non-fiction space as well as writing thrillers. So she does non-fiction and fiction, and she tripled her fiction platform and grew her non-fiction business by 50%. So big results. And I know we've gone through a lot today, and some people have said in the chat, I can't keep track of everything. Don't worry. This will all make sense when you go through it at your own pace, because we're kind of constrained by time today, which is the way of things. But if you want to get what we've talked about today, plus all the other stuff we didn't have time to cover, and loads of videos, downloads, case studies, and all the other stuff to go with it, you can get the full fat version of today's presentation with my 0 to 1K a month from book sales course. And this is kind of looking at, what does it take to get to $1,000 a month? What I'm not doing is saying I can take anybody and give them $1,000 a month with no work, because it's not true. What I'm going to show you instead is how to figure out for you personally what you need to do to get there. So for example, in the first lesson, I have this little Excel spreadsheet calculator that I made, and you can add in your books to it and click your monthly revenue goal, and it will tell you how many clicks you need to get each day. And then in the next lessons, I show you where to get those clicks, how to convert them, and give you a ton of extra learning as well. So this is something you can go through at your own pace. So if you want to learn more, the link is here, yourfirst10kreaders.com. So you can click through to there, sign up, and you should get the first lesson within about 4 minutes. And as I said, I don't leave things to the last minute, but I did finish this today. So that's all ready and waiting for you. But in the meantime, if you do have questions, please do drop them in the Q&A box as well. I think we're going to shift over from the chat box to Q&A, I think. And I'll try and pick up as many as I can. So we'll take you from there. Thank you so much for listening. We're going to go through some questions.
That was great, Nick. Thank you so much. We do have a few questions. We are a bit pressed for time, but we'll be able to get to a few. And then Nick has offered to come over to our Facebook group. So as soon as this session is over, I'm going to post an announcement. And if anyone didn't get their questions answered today, you can head on over there, post it in the comments, and Nick will get to as many as he can. Okay, so first question. How many hours do you suggest setting aside to work on marketing? Or do you suggest getting a virtual assistant to help, especially if you are not a full-time writer yet and have limited time to write?
So I think it's a difficult question, because how many hours you need to spend on something depends on where you're at now and what you need to do to get there. So this is why in the free course, this is lesson 1, is figuring out what's my baseline. Where am I right now? But kind of the goal I want to get to is, for the first few weeks or few months of implementing this, you're going to be working on building that infrastructure. So coming up with a reader magnet is usually one of the first things that people do. And that's a great place to start. So thinking about, what gift can I offer people in exchange for their email address? Now, if you have 40 books, probably quite easy for you to go, oh, that one can be free. Here you go. If you've got one book, or you're writing your first book, it might be a bit more difficult. So you might want to think about, how long is it going to take me to write a short story for this, or, come up with a deleted chapter and then do a cover for it. That might take between 10 and 100 hours. It depends on where you're at. The goal is to kind of do the work once and then make it work for you again and again and again and again. So similarly, setting up a website to collect those email addresses. If you use a built-in one at MailChimp or MailerLite, it might take you half an hour. If you're building one from scratch, it'll take longer. So it's difficult to say. I think it is going to come down to your schedule. So if you're like me and you kind of have three kids running around most of the time, you want to concentrate on that sort of 4 or 5 hours of productivity that you have. So if the priority is getting the next book written, you might want to focus on that and spend half an hour a day on marketing. If you're between book releases and you're waiting for your editor to get back to you, for example, you might spend the full 4 hours doing that day, and then it's set up. But the goal is, by the time it's built, you have all the mundane stuff running in the background. And then really the only marketing you're doing is checking on your ads in the morning and maybe writing a couple of launch emails if you have a launch coming up. That's the goal I want to get you to, but it takes work to get there. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, next question. Do you have a recommendation on which social media options to start working on to grow an audience?
I wouldn't do it at all to grow an audience. I think growing an audience on social media is so incredibly difficult these days. The people who do it is usually a combination of blind luck, already being famous, or having worked at it for 8 years. So if you go on Instagram and you look at the influencers, if you look at the terrible ones, they're usually already famous. You look at the good ones, you scroll down their feed, you'll see they've been doing this for years and years and years and years and years. The thing is, though, social media followings are all well and good, but I'd rather have those people on an email list. So for example, on Facebook, if you have a page and you send out a post on that page, something like 1%, maybe 2% of people who follow you will actually see that post. All right. So it's limited use. Whereas if you send out an email, you might get 50% people open that, and then half those people click on it. The engagement level is so much higher with email, and more importantly, they can't take it away from you. So, people can get their Instagram accounts, Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts shut down. They can change the rules, as they have done a million times before, where they've dropped number of people who see your posts from 10% to 2%, or, they make you buy ads for that very reason. So social media, I'll grow the email list first and then invite them over to social media as a little bonus. That's where I would focus.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. We'll go with this one. How long after releasing a book and talking about it on social media is it wise to change its cover? Do you first need to give it a few months to spread before you change the cover, or a few weeks is enough?
I think if you want to have the data, so how long that takes depends on what data you have. So one useful thing about Amazon ads, hopefully you guys have heard of Amazon ads, Amazon advertising. If you have a KDP account, you have an advertising account, you can run ads to your book. And this is useful because we can spend $10, $20, $50 to find out how well our cover is performing. So if you go into your ad account on Amazon, choose the book you want to test, spend however much you're comfortable with, and set everything to automatic placement, automatic bids, automatic everything. Don't make it complicated. Come back, check it each day, but give it a while and see how many clicks you get. Look at the stats on the dashboard. It'll tell you your click-through rate. If the click-through rate's terrible, chances are the cover might need changing. If it's a really good click-through rate, you don't need to change that cover. So it depends how long it's going to take you to get the data. But if you say like, I have this, I put a cover up last week and I've realized it's now completely wrong, just change it straight away. Don't hesitate to change it, but just make sure you have the data first. And again, in the course at yourfirst10kreaders.com, I cover how to do all of that. What are the good baseline levels? What to look out for? It's all covered for you there.
All right. Thank you so much. Like I said, everybody, I know there's some questions we didn't get to, but with so much information, so much great information that Nick gave us today, be sure to come to the Facebook group. You can post your questions there in this thread, and we will have the replay and the slides posted for you later on our Crime Writers Week Hub. So make sure you check that out. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you again, Nick. It was great having you.
Thank you. And I'm going to go over to the Facebook group now, and I'll post in there. And if you have questions I didn't get to, just respond in Facebook and I'll get to you as soon as I can. But thank you all for listening. It's been a pleasure, as always.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.